ago, the South African Film and Television Awards announced their nominees for 2023 iteration. And there were a lot of questions that were being asked on social media about the SAFTAs, even though they've been around. I mean, this is their 17th edition. So they've been around for a while, but there were a lot of questions being asked on social media about the SAFTAs. So I figured, you know what? I got a platform right now. So why not invite somebody from the SAFTA to come on board and actually explain to us what this organization is about, what the awards are about, and, kind of like, educate us so that next time I on Twitter, at least we come from an informed position. So with us today in studio is NFVF Head of Operations, Onke Dumeko. How you doing, my love?
I'm fine, Dumeko.
Dumeko. Ooh, what language is that?
Xhosa.
Xhosa. Oh, okay.
Yes.
But isn't Onke from Tswana name?
Maybe, but it's Amaxesha Onke is my full name.
Oh.
Ngamaxesha Onke uThixo unathi.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
very
Okay.
unique name, by the way.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
For some
It's
reason,
from a hymn. It's the last line of a hymn. Yeah.
right. For some reason, I thought that was it's on our name. But anyway, welcome to the Entertainment Alert podcast. We're
you
very
so
happy that you
much.
were able to take the time to come here and actually, speak to us about the SAFTAs. Yeah. So this is Jabulani.
Nice to meet you again.
So let's start from the beginning. What are the SAFTAs?
So the SAFTAs are the South African Film and Television Awards. They are the earmark awards for all things film and television in South Africa, and dare I say on the continent, but we focus obviously on South African content. We've been in existence for which now will be 17 years. So yeah, they are the hallmark awards for the film and television awards, for film and television content.
And who gets to decide, on who wins or who gets nominated?
So we follow an international standard of conducting the process of nominees and winners through a jury process.
Okay.
So our timeline operates over a year, right? So where we first start by releasing a call to industry for projects, for them to submit their films, for them to submit TV shows. And concurrently to that, we do the same thing for people who are experienced enough in the industry to be jury members. So in other words, to be the people that evaluate the content and make a decision as to whether a show should be nominated in a certain category, and then ultimately make a decision along with the other jury members as to which show or film should be the winner of that category. So it's an independent process in the sense that we have a jury. And we usually aim to have between 215 and 300 jury members, just because of the volume of projects that we have. So it's quite a number of people that we work with. And their skill set is across everything. So script writing, cinematography, acting, whatever. It has to be comprehensive because the categories are vast, right? So that's how the process is. We do have two categories though, that are public vote categories, but still, even with those, the production companies, they need to submit the films or the individuals.
Yeah. I want to talk about
that.
submission later on, but let's just take it back a little bit. With the Academy, with the Oscars, the Academy will have members of the Academy, which would be the jury, the people that actually, adjudicate the process, right? Are you guys using the similar method in South Africa where actors get to judge actors, directors get to judge directors, scriptwriters get to judge scriptwriters? Is that the same process that you guys use?
Yes, it is. So that's why the jury process, that's why we're quite clear to say that, you will be assigned obviously to a category that is going to be best fit with your skill set, just to make it fair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, with that being said, I'm actually interested to know as to, with the whole jury process and everything else, with the decision making, how long does it actually take before the actual ceremony takes place?
So we release, so we will release a call for people to submit their names to be jury members. It usually runs just under 2 months. And then the jury are given content to deliberate on, and we give them, once they've been selected, we give them 3 months to go through all of the content, right? Once they've gone through the content, and they have their individual decisions and scores in place, they will then convene over a week with all the other jury members to deliberate on each of the categories so that they make a decision on the 3 nominees per category. Sometimes it's 5 nominees at most per category. And then they will make a decision on the winner. So that entire process is overseen by auditors. So we have a very reputable auditing firm that we work with. So even from the jury selection process, so once we have all of the submissions in, people will send their CVs and all of those things. Then there's a vetting process to check that those people are indeed compliant, that those people indeed exist, right? And then you have your auditors that vet that list. Then once they go through the process, you have the auditors that vet the evaluation that each of the jury members would have done. Even when they deliberate, when they come together for that week, the auditors are there with the NFF team, but the auditors are there overseeing each and every single category that's being deliberated on to get to the nominees list, and then ultimately to get to the winners list.
Yeah.
So it's quite an intense process.
Yeah, it does sound lengthy also.
Yeah.
So Temba is an actor on a TV show and wants to be eligible to be nominated. So does Temba do a show reel of his work himself and submit, or does that have to come through the production companies?
So that has to come through the production company.
Oh, okay.
So even if Temba is a presenter on a show and he feels like, he wants to be in the running, production company then must submit for that public vote category for him to be submitted as best presenter.
So just to be clear, individuals cannot submit themselves
for themselves.
The
No.
production companies that they work for have to be the ones.
Yeah.
So now when you have a situation now where some of these production companies don't want to submit, and now you got amazing talent on these productions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the thing. Look, I mean, there are production companies that we're obviously aware of that we always want to submit. You know, I mean, obviously we have to keep abreast of the content that's out there. So we look at the content. So for SAFTA 17, since they're happening this year, the content that's eligible is anything that was on TV and cinemas, on streamers from the 1st of Jan last year to the 31st of December last year. So 1st Jan 2022 to 31 December 2022. Right?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I had to tweet about that and make people understand.
Yeah.
The ceremony happens this year.
Yeah.
But
it's reflective of the content.
This was off air.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. The eligibility was for last year. So
Yes.
it's the 2023 awards, but they are recognizing last year's work, basically.
Yeah.
2022 content.
Yeah, 2022 content.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way
And
of
look, there
putting
are
it.
some shows that are cancelled, right? There's some broadcasters that they'll have a show on air. It's not making them money. After 3 months, it's off air. It happens, right? And that's a business decision for them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't great talent on that show, and they didn't do amazing performances. And that's, I'm not just talking about on screen. I'm talking about your script writers, your cinematographers, everyone who you're not necessarily going to see on screen, but worked on that production. So they have every right to submit that content.
So there's actually interesting questions around the reality shows that are nominated. So obviously the SOAP structured reality shows, specific shows are nominated. So it's always been a question that came to me as to
which one goes where?
Yeah, which one goes where? Can maybe let's say Abandoned or Sinkatelo Blue or Jola 99 fall under that category?
So something like We Are Jola 99 would fall under best docu, right? Reality, because it's episodic. So each episode is like Our Perfect Wedding, which has been nominated. Each episode you're looking at a different situation, and the host is giving you a picture of it, and you get to a conclusion per episode. Then there's best soapy reality. Then that like a soapy where you have a storyline, right, that follows through, where we're looking at whoever Ulindiwe and her husband on the river, for example, right? Telenovela, but whatever. Your soapy reality, right, then follows the storyline of that individual. Right? So you have Kelly's show there, you have DJ Zinhle's show there nominated. You're following their storyline. like a soapy, right? But soapy reality.
Okay.
And then there's best competition, right? So your survivors or whatever the case is, because there's something that they're winning at the end. So that's how they structured separately.
You got that. I think that's the best answer, actually. Like it makes sense. So best soapy follows one storyline, right?
Yes.
So which means
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily have to be a celebrity like Guanjomani. What's it called, that show that you like?
Guanjomani.
Guanjomani would be in the best soapy because it's one storyline of one family,
Yes.
and all of that,
Yes.
right? However, a show like I Blew It would be more on the docu reality
Yes.
because
Yes.
every episode follows only one specific story of one
Yes.
specific person for that episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so Senkatela would fall onto the docu.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Now that makes sense, because
Yeah.
we didn't really understand. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but now for these shows to be on there, people have to submit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So shows have to submit, production companies have to submit so that they can be eligible to be nominated in that category. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
To the thing that you were saying before, we reach out to, sometimes we reach out to the producers and we're just like, hey, just by the way,
Yeah.
there are the SAFTAs coming up, the eligibility, the timeline is open for the call. We reach out to the broadcasters as well. Just a reminder, please just circulate this to your production companies that you work with. Let's get those entries in. Because there are some of those that, for whatever reason that they have, would not want to submit. I mean, I think in the case of a presenter, it also depends on the way you look at it. I think if you are really, really convinced that you are brilliant at presenting, right, and you've done a really great job, I don't think there's anything wrong with you approaching the leadership in the production company and saying, look, can you please submit me, right, as best presenter? And I will do everything in my capacity to make sure that, we have a fair chance at this, right? Because we're in the social media age now. You'll have people who have big followings, right, on social media,
Yeah.
who can, of their own accord, campaign,
Yeah.
right? And that's perfectly acceptable because you are directing the public in a direction as to where they can vote. You are asking your followers, your audience, people that know you, to vote, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And ultimately, you as the presenter and the production company, you both win because you would come out hopefully as the best presenter for that show. So it also depends how you look at it. Like, if you're a very determined presenter and you really, really want to have a go at it, then that's a conversation that you have with the production company. You ask them to submit. You do the best that you can to campaign in your own capacity to get those votes in.
Yeah. There was a very concerning campaign of misinformation that was going through social media about submission. Somebody had made a claim that you have to spend money to submit for the SAFTAs. I know that's false. Can you
Yes,
speak
it
on
is.
that?
Yeah, it is absolutely false. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Right? The National Film and Video Foundation is an entity of the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. So we're a government agency under a government department. We are the custodians of the SAFTAs, and at no point are we allowed to get any type of payment for anything.
Yeah.
That happens from people who want to be nominated, I think what might happen is people might have the perception that that's happening because they see the same show nominated year on year, or the same show wins 2 years in a row, right? Or 3 years in a row. But the thing is, how, like, on what's the word? I don't want to use the word on brand, but it also depends on, the interest and the energy of the actual production company. Like, how much do they want it? How much do they value what a SAFTA means in terms of how it adds value to the show, how it adds value to the broadcaster, if it's a film, how it adds value to the film as a whole. And if they're always intentional about making sure the SAFTAs, let's get in the nomination, then they have every prerogative to do that, right? And if other production companies refuse to, then that's their prerogative as well.
Speaking of value, do you think that the NFVF has done enough to illuminate the fact that, the SAFTAs as an award show has value for, the talent that is nominated there, that when you leave our shows and, there's a SAFTA attached to your name, it actually does enhance your profile, because it says that your people back home actually recognize your talent and, have actually acknowledged the excellent work that you do. Do you think you guys have done enough to, let people know about that?
What a lovely question. I think I think it's a work in progress. I mean, as you said before, it is 17 years. I think every single year we're always thinking of new ways, right? To, I guess, elevate the status of the brand. This is the first time we'll be in person again after 3 years, right, of being virtual or online. So there's always ways that we are thinking of, just how we elevate the positioning through that storytelling, as you suggest, right? So there are always those windows of opportunity for us to just fine tune that a lot better.
Jabu, did you know the NFVF does fund content creators?
Wow, I thought it was just film only.
You see, the young ones don't know these things. So there's an opportunity.
Wow.
There's an opportunity to actually, inform them so that they know. So let's park the SAFTAs for a little bit and talk about. Okay, let me put it this way: the NFVF funds the actual SAFTAs, because for a lot of people, their awareness of the SAFTAs is about the ceremony, not the process of getting to the ceremony, right? So the NFVF is responsible for funding the actual ceremony and making sure that, that happens and it's on screen and it looks beautiful, right? So as the Mureki, what else do you as NFVF, contribute to in terms of the industry? Because I want people to know that you are not just only about the SAFTAs.
Yeah. So the NFVF, like I said, is a agency of DSAC, the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. Our mandate is to enable the equitable growth of the industry. So we do that in various ways. So we fund development of films, so script development, we production, post-production, marketing and distribution of that content. We also do research about the industry. So we look at the economic impact of the industry. We look at various things, the transformation of it. We do research on specific genres like animation and all of that. And then we also have quite a number of partnerships that enable us to do the work. So I mean, we had a partnership with TikTok, where we funded a number of content creators to just have a better understanding of how to monetize their TikTok accounts and really treat themselves as TikTokpreneurs. And we had a partnership with Netflix as well to do 6 micro budget films, most of which are in the finalization stages. So quite a number of partnerships with the streamers, I think, really help the current, the currency of content as you have it now. And we fund filmmakers to attend film festivals all over the world, across the continent as well, and in South Africa. If they're screening their films or if they are pitching their films, it really just depends what they're going to be doing with those films. And then we fund through additional funding that we get from the presidency through the department called the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. So it's an addition of quite a number of millions for us to give to. Yeah.
And you also fund studies as well. I've seen on your website.
Absolutely. So skills development and training. So we so we fund bursaries across the country and internationally, but we focus on the behind the scenes elements, if you will. So development, production, post-production, anything that really speaks to what we fund as an organization is what we offer in terms of a bursary, right? The same goes for international bursaries. And then we also fund trainers. So if you are a trainer in the industry and you want to train other people and, you just need some funding you're an accredited or partially accredited trainer, we fund you as well. And then interns. We have quite a number of interns at some are at production companies. They're placed in various programs, and we fund that process as well in terms of the stipends that the interns get together with the Mixita. So there's quite a lot of development that we support as well.
Yeah. So in simple terms, Batu, is all you have to do is just go into their website and see the NFVF does a lot of funding in different aspects. Government speak. So we simplify a fella like I know a lot of creatives, especially young black creatives, well, I've never gotten any funding from NFVF, by the way. Only but the thing is that if you are not investing in yourself, and investment in self does not mean money. Investment in self can also be information. So if you're not going out there and seeking information about the industry that you're in and the opportunities that are available, to help you get to where you need to get to in terms of, your goal or your dream, then you are only depriving yourself, And I'm so glad that we're able to have Onke here, because this is very important. I hope it have somebody else out there to know there are opportunities out there to kind of help you get somewhere. Do you have any questions?
I'm actually learning a lot from this. It's actually a great conversation. So I've noticed that in South Africa, in terms of content creation, in terms of television, we mostly believe in your soapies and your series, and we don't have many films, or maybe we're not exposed to many films. Now, as the NFVF, do you guys have a mandate or a goal as to how many movies you can fund? And would you say economically, is it creating the right amount of jobs that people can have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we obviously are given a budget, right, where we have to administer that type of funding. And you're right in the sense that I think in South Africa, television content, particularly, your telenovelas and all of that, there's a lot of kind of funding, specifically broadcaster, private sector funding in those, mainly because, they keep people working for a relatively longer time period, right? But with film, it really depends on the interest for the industry, right, to be able to produce as many films as possible, right? So you need a volume driver. So, for example, with PSP, we create, I think when we did PSP in the first year, we did.
What is PSP?
PSP is the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, right?
Okay.
So we did over 8,000 jobs, right? In 2020. Last year, our target was to create 9,000 jobs. And with that PSP called PSP3, which ends at the end of this year, we're already at 12,000, right? So the jobs mandate is central to that. I mean, even in the absence of something like that program, with our normal NFVF program funding, we do sit in the realm of about 11,000 jobs. Sorry, 11,000 if you're looking over a certain time period of years. So it's a difficult thing to say if there's a specific target of films. Ultimately, what we do is we have an annual performance plan, right? Which basically says, as an entity, how are you measuring your performance, right? How are you measuring the extent to which you're spending this money? And that then gives us an indication of how many films we have funded, right? Of how many films we aim to fund, the goal that you're saying, and how many films we ultimately did, right? So we have that as a benchmark, and we always make sure that we meet those numbers, and if best, that we exceed them. So it all goes into that strategy and that plan that we have, and making sure that when we report back and say, hey, this is how much money we've spent, we can at least say we've met that target or we've exceeded it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I feel like every time when I tweet about it, South Africa is so surprised that wow, no, you're making these figures up. The people don't realize that South Africans actually do go to cinemas and actually pay money
Yes.
to watch movies. Yes, majority of the money goes to international, films and all of that. I mean, there was one year where we were like at 1.9 billion. That was a gross that the films in South Africa made at
Before
cinemas.
COVID.
And I think it was pre-COVID.
Oh,
I think
okay.
after COVID we've gone down a bit. But the common thing is that even when we would put out like maybe 20 local films and all of that, the most that would come out of that would be maybe like a 20 mil out of that, 1 point something billion. Do you think now with streamers on board, now taking away, that chunk of the audience away from cinemas, now we can watch these films at home. Do you think that will discourage filmmakers in South Africa to continue making films, or do you think it's going to encourage more filmmakers to make films aiming at licensing them to streamers?
I definitely think it will encourage them because the business model with streamers is different to traditional viewing, right, in theaters. The value of the industry is 7.1 billion, right?
Okay,
If you
repeat that number. 7.1 billion.
And that's not including commercials.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking about film. 7.1 billion. Now, if you factor in COVID, it contracts to 2.9 billion.
Yeah.
So obviously, you see that impact, but then there's the recovery that you need after that. So 7.1 billion, that amounts to something like, 91 million in terms of tax revenues, right? As a minimum. So that's just on a national level. It's an important industry to have. 7.1 billion, the jobs that you're creating from an industry valued at 7.1 billion, it's no pap and place, So with the films, we recently released we're about to publish the box office report, that just looks at the performance of films last year in cinemas, right? And it indicates that there's been a 67% revenue increase.
Oh, that's great.
Since the previous year, right? Because that's just the recovery from COVID, which is good. So last year, we had 200 films released to cinemas.
Yeah.
But of the 200, 11 were South African. And of those 11, they made 12.8 million in terms of revenue.
Yeah.
Now, there's one film that made 10.5 million.
From that 11?
From that 12.8 million,
Yeah,
so
that is so sad,
It's
though.
12.8 million revenue.
Yes.
One film made 10.5 million.
Literally 90% of that.
Literally 90%.
Jeez.
Let me guess.
Then the rest, huh?
Is it only on Tuesday?
You see, But that's the thing, you see. So then, Mr. Bones, then the question becomes, you can either look at that thing and say, oh no, like I'm not going to accept this, whatever. Or you start to ask yourself, okay, well, what is he doing right?
Yeah.
What is that business model that he has? What is he doing right? Ultimately, he will get a very good number of weeks in cinema, right? At least 7 weeks.
Which is a conversation that we're not having enough, because when it's happening on social media, it gets very race baity in a way.
Yeah.
But it's an important conversation.
If you think about it,
yes.
Right? Let's think like logic.
Yeah.
The majority of the country population is black.
Is black.
If that film has made 10.5 million in revenue out of the 12.8 million, the majority of people watching his film are black.
Yes. But now the problem comes here.
But you see, before you're saying it's a question of, okay, but what about the films made for black people? They are watching the film.
Yes.
Because the film is distributed to as many cinemas as possible for as long a time as possible.
Yes.
And the duration hits the sweet spot, because after 16 weeks in cinema, it starts to go down. So, but that happens because it's the best performing year on year, because the business model has been built, and he knows what he's getting right and how to always make sure that, he crosses his T's and dots his I's where they're supposed to be crossed and dotted.
Yeah.
It's a question of then, okay, you analyzing that and saying what is being done right. In South Africa, I think a lot of the things that affect us are perceptions around what our industry should be, right? If you look at a market like Nigeria,
Yeah.
which is cash-based, we're not really necessarily cash-based, but nonetheless, Nigeria had a very, very amazing film industry in the 60s. Amazing, like beautiful, beautiful stuff. Then they went through all of their political issues and stuff, and they had to start from scratch in the 90s.
Yeah.
Nigerians were like, you know what? We're going to eat our humble pie on this, and we're going to do what we need to do to build it, right? They bought old VHS tapes from America because America was moving to DVD. And they were like, we're going to make as many people as possible a patron of film in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
So when they started to rebuild their content, that's why you'd see a lot of the films, they're 4 hours, they're 6 hours long. You see someone walking across, with a boom mic and whatever. Sometimes it looks like it's done on a cell phone. They didn't care about the quality per se at that point. All they cared about was making as many films as possible. They cared about volume. Because the vision was to say, let's get a film industry that's working, where as many people are working in the industry as possible. Once we're self-sustaining and we're funding ourselves, then we'll worry about things like quality and all of those things. And that's what happened. So for example, MultiChoice went from having 1 Africa Magic channel to 3. Netflix said, okay, we'll have Netflix South Africa, we'll have Netflix Nigeria. So if you look at a lot of the content now, versus 5-10 years ago, there's a different frequency in terms of the quality.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot more dynamic things. It's not just, your Africa Magic movies that are 4 hours, 6 hours long, but they can do that because they've created something that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Itself. And that industry is the second highest employer in the country of Nigeria.
Yeah. But here's the problem though with juxtaposing that to South Africa, right? I think for me, and that's my personal opinion, I think the South African film and television industry has a problem with corporate lack of confidence, in Black content and Black consumers of that content, right? Going back to the cinemas and cinema allocation. Yes, Leon Schuster will get more cinema screens, because corporate, the owners of the cinemas believe, yes, it's proven that he can make money, but believe that, it's a Leon Schuster film, so more people are going to pay money to go see it. So we're going to give him 78 screens, right? But when it comes to Amanda Dube, they might not, have the same confidence in him and say, hey, we are also going to believe in you and give you the same 78 films, because then when you question why are you doing that, they'll be like, mara Black films, don't make money. Look at that film that we gave, 45 screens, it lost money for us. And for me, it's like, until we get to a point where both sides have confidence in what we do and what we produce and the audience that we could attract, then we're not going to move anywhere. Don't you think?
So I think it's 2 things. I mean, remember Mr. Bones, that's like a franchise, right? So if you look at the Fast and the Furious, that's a franchise. I don't know what they're, Fast and the Furious 75.
Yeah.
But it's a franchise. So when there's a franchise, already from a marketing, you see Fast and Furious, okay, I know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, it's 7. Okay, I think I remember watching 6. Okay, let me just watch that. It's not much of a harder sell. Already the name of the film you're familiar with. So, for example, if you look at what's the series, How to Ruin Christmas?
Yeah,
good franchise that they're building through Netflix, right? So the marketing value of a franchise, obviously, it helps the film, just the attractability.
Yeah.
You'll get people watching it without even needing to be convinced because they just like the one before, you know? And with what you're saying, I think the industry now is at a very interesting stage because your traditional cinema outlets historically would not necessarily want to have enough cinemas in areas that were, densely populated with previously disadvantaged individuals.
Yeah, true,
right? So then you have streamers that come in and fill in that gap, right? And when they're filling in that gap, you then have local broadcasters who've started investing quite a lot in local content. So the local films that we could be watching in cinemas, we're watching on Mzansi Magic, we're watching on Mzansi Wetu, we're watching on. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then we're watching them when Netflix does an original South African, then we'll watch it there or we'll watch it on Amazon. So, depending if you have that availability to internet access, that so then it puts then the traditional theaters in quite a predicament, because the thing is, once you've had that monopoly for years, it's your responsibility to be a bit more, to have a bit more of a wider vision, to say, what is the appetite of local content? Because if they just looked at, even before streamers came, the amount of investment broadcasters were making in local content, it would tell you everything. We need more distribution. We need more visibility of cinemas across the country, because people like local content, right? If you look at the demographic, the majority of the country, they like the local content. Otherwise, there's no way MultiChoice would invest so much in it. The audience is there, right? Do the traditional cinemas, have they woken up quickly enough to catch up to that? That's another question, right? But the interest is definitely there.
Yeah, so let's take it back to the SAFTAs before you conclude. So what's new this year that you can talk about?
Well, what's new is that we're back in person, which is nice. So we're very excited about that. The SAFTAs will be happening on the 29th and the 30th of September. We're just in the process of finalizing some of the hosts that we'll have across the 3 shows. And I just think, I think the viewers are gonna have to watch it to be more.
I think there's a category that I saw,
online content. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily new. We had it. But we had it for the first time 3 years ago, and it's for you people and your online content. So we do. The nominees for online content have been mentioned. I think Actor Spaces is one of the nominees. And it's to acknowledge online content. And I mean, a category like that, you can just imagine one category is probably not enough, right? And it's something that we need to kind of double down a bit more into, and not just say online content generically, which could be a YouTube channel, it could be many things, but kind of double down into that. But it's the first step towards that, right? So it is a relatively new category. But the rest of the newness you'll see.
So you can't even tell us about, do you guys have any new partnerships that you can talk about? No, nothing.
I mean, look, our partnerships, we've been working really well with our broadcasters, Mzansi Magic and S3, formerly known as SABC3. So the broadcast on both channels has been really, really great, just to get, different audiences. And also a different quality of audiences, I think, which is equally important. So it's been good just to spread our wings and not be on one channel. Sometimes when you're on one channel, then it becomes more about the one broadcaster than it is about the actual SAFTAs brand. So it's an industry awards. It's the ultimate industry awards. So we have to be as industry widespread as possible. That's ultimately quite important.
Yeah. So my final question is this: how much does it cost to put on the SAFTA ceremony? Just the ceremony, just the ceremony, not the build up and all of that.
It costs a lot.
Come on, ballpark figure.
It costs a lot.
Yeah. Okay. I leave it there. Do you have anything?
Nothing. But just going back to films, you did mention that Leon Chus is one of those films that's just they actually do well. Now, in terms of black films, did you have any at the top of your mind? That
but there's no such thing as black films anymore.
I don't know.
What are black films?
Not black films, but more.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You know what he's saying. Like films that are targeted to a black audience.
Happiness is a 4-letter word. Is that one of them?
I guess it is. I mean, Look, it's the question for me.
Yeah.
Black films. Because what's a black film? I'm being honest. Like, I think as a filmmaker, you make content, you might have even if you look at Tyler Perry, I don't know if Tyler Perry produces content obviously for a very specific audience.
Yeah.
And if he's not, if he doesn't exist, and if he doesn't have his lot in Atlanta where he does all his productions, a good majority of African Americans are not working in Hollywood. It's just a fact, But if you were to break down his audience profile, sometimes you would be surprised, because for some of them, they might not predominantly be black. He makes film for an audience, right? And that's the thinking. Who are you making this film for? Like, you always have to think with the end in mind, because even with film, and I think that's part of the separation between film and TV, you have to think beyond the territory you're in. Because sometimes your film will screen, it might screen at local film festivals, it could screen at international film festivals. So and get very great critical acclaim to international audiences, where the makeup of those audiences is not necessarily black. And you could end up making more money there.
That's what's happening with the Korean film and television industry, where now,
So K-dramas, I mean, even in South Africa, the majority of people that watch K-dramas, it's like a 60-40 split, but it's mainly black.
Dubbed in Afrikaans, right? I think. No, I don't.
So
I think I've seen them.
I mean, I love K-dramas. And I don't change it to English. I want to hear them speaking Korean, and then I'll just read the subtitles. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's the thinking, it's because then if you look at the demographics of Mr. Bones, then you would say it's a black film. Is it a black film? The majority of the audience might be black, so that's why I'm saying it's the audience profile, domestically, internationally.
I never expected that.
Go ahead, Onke. No, it's fine.
Yeah, so it depends on the audience profile that you're trying to attract. I mean, you could say the similar thing for music, right? So someone like Huma Sigela, Miriam Makeba, they made the vast majority of their respective fortunes overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, apartheid and all of those things, which prevented them quite a lot domestically, but Europe was open.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for a lot of artists still today. Someone like Thandiso Mazwai will get a relatively warm reception in Europe and will be able to tour there. I mean, if you look at what's happening also with a lot of Afro-pop music, what's happening with Amapiano and how they're picking up, particularly with American artists.
Like, I think the perfect example for that is that guy who, Nakani Torre. I think now he just goes by the name Nakani. In Europe, he's a big deal, not just as a musician. I mean, he's an actor as well. I mean, he was in a film recently and all of that. So in Europe, he is a big deal. But in South Africa, it's relatively like, people don't really pay too much attention to him. But hey, anyway, that's our show. Listen, guys, there's a lot of information about what the NFVF is doing. All you have to do is just go into their website, which is the nfvf.co.za or .com? .co.za. They have a very simple template there. If you're looking for figures, you can get figures there. If you're looking for funding information, you can get funding information and all of that. You can also check out their social media platforms, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, they're everywhere. So go on there if you are interested in the industry or you are already in the industry and you want to get more information about what they are doing. I really recommend that you do that. More than that, the SAFTAs are happening 29 September is the main...
main show will be broadcast on Mzansi Magic and SABC 3 on the 30th of September.
Right. You had the 30th of September, simulcast SABC 3 and Mzansi Magic. That's where you're going to see the ceremony of the SAFTAs. We can't tell you who's going to be hosting, but as soon as we know, check Jabulani or my socials and then you'll get to know who's going to be hosting that. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.